Good morning everyone, welcome you all to the virtual school. First of all, if you are new to my channel, please subscribe to my channel, and if you like the content, please share it as much as you can, because it's really motivating for me to put up no new good videos each and every day for you. Okay, so all done with the intro. So now let's start up with the new topic. Earlier we have already discussed about the scope rules. In this lecture we will be discussing about the LEGB rule and what it is and all about it, and we will be discussing a little bit about defining the classes. Okay, we will be taking up the classes in more detail in next lecture, but I will just set up the ground as to what the classes is, how you define it, and how you basically use it. Okay, so first of all, coming over to the LEGB rule. Okay, what is LEGB rule? LEGB rule is a very basic rule of execution of a program. Uh, how a program proceeds and how a particular function actually determines what variable to use, how to use it, and from where in the scope it has to take up the variable's value. All of that is governed by the LEGB rule. LEGB rule by the LEGB rule, I mean the L stands for the local, the E stands for the enclosing functions, the G stands for the global, and then B stands for the built-in. You can take it like a circle within circles. Okay, now as soon as a program starts to execute and suppose a function needs to utilize a particular value, it will first check within its local scope. Okay, that is locally within a function whether that particular variable is available or not, whether it has a value or not. If suppose it has, it will utilize first that. If it doesn't have it, then it will expand its scope. Okay, then it will go further beyond its scope and it will go to the enclosing functions. That is it will check the enclosing function. The function within a function can also be enclosed. Okay, so it will check the other enclosing functions as to whether the value is present in those or not. Okay, if suppose in those value is present, then that would be utilized. If suppose it is not, then the scope is expanded further. Then it will go to a global level. That is, the module globally would be searched, and the particular value or the particular variable will be searched within the scope of the module. If suppose again the variable is found, then that value is utilized. If suppose it is still not found, then at last the built-in modules or the built-in functions would be checked. The built-in functions I have already discussed about it, the basic print, max, min, which is available to you as soon as the interpreter starts the execution, because these modules get loaded as soon as the execution starts. Okay, so like this, the scope expands. That is the searching criteria or the search for a particular variable or a particular function starts from a very small level, and it slowly and gradually expands to the entire scope of the module. Okay, so that is how the execution of a program actually is determined or is actually taking place. Okay, I hope that is quite clear. If it is not, just write me down in the comment section and I will surely get back to you. And do write the comments, because it helps me to understand whether or not you are getting up with the topic or not. Okay, so now taking up the defining of the classes, that is our next topic as to how do we define a class. Okay, we have already discussed a lot about the class in the previous lecture. In this lecture I will be taking up the classes in a much more detailed manner. The classes, now coming over to the definition of a class. Okay, a class is basically, you all know it, that it wraps the data members and the functions into a single unit. Okay, now how a class is defined? The major thing for defining a class, first of all, is the keyword. That is, you need to use the class keyword. Okay, by using the class keyword, you actually start the definition of a particular class. Okay, that is, the Python now understands where this particular block of code is actually a class. Okay, then the second thing that you write after the class keyword is the name of the class. You identify that name. That is, you are basically creating a namespace. Okay, that is, this namespace will contain this class and all the function, all the other data members that a particular class can contain. Okay, now after that you write a colon. Okay, the braces are not actually used in the Python. Okay, we use the colon to say that now the definition has been started. Okay, so a basic class definition may look like this, as you can see on the board also. Let me just expand it. Here you can see a basic class definition looks like this. That is a class name, and then a colon, and then the all the block of code, all the statements, that whatever you want. Okay. Now, the class keyword is actually a reserved keyword. Okay, just to make a note of it, that a class keyword is a reserved keyword. That is, you can't use class word as another variable's name or any other thing, because then it will give a particular error. That is the reserved keyword error, a basic error that is shown in the Python. Okay, so it's a reserved keyword. Now, as soon as you declare a particular class, its namespace is created. It is very much similar to what happens when you declare a particular function and when you call it. Okay. As soon as you declare a particular function, its namespace is created. All the values that is provided within the local scope of that function is actually present in that namespace. So as soon as you declare a class, its namespace is created, and basically this helps all the other functions, all the other variable to use the basic definitions locally within its scope. Okay, this is a very basic thing that happens with the function also, and same thing happens with the class also. Okay, now class definition, as soon as you have defined a class, you have defined the attributes of it. Okay, now these attributes can be read only also and can be writable also. Okay, like suppose if you want to access a particular attribute of a class, let's just take this example. Okay, like suppose a test1 is a class and you want to access the marks attribute of that class. So for accessing that, you need to use the dot operator first of all. Like suppose you want to access any other, like suppose you have a dog named class and a bark named function. So to access the bark function, you have to actually create the object of the class, and then by the dot notation, you have to use the function of the class. Okay, so that's a basic rule that is being followed. Okay, so by accessing these methods or these attributes, you are actually utilizing the properties of the class. This is quite clear. Okay, now if you want to now there are certain attributes that can be modified within the class, and they can be certain attributes that are just read only, that is, you can't modify them. Okay, so so to do this, you again have to create the object of the class, and you have to access that data member, and you can assign a value or not assign a value depending upon whatever the logic of your code that you have written. Okay, so this is another property of a class, that you can write the code or rewrite the particular attribute or not. Now coming over to the another aspect which is very much similar or very much joined with this particular concept only. Like suppose you have used a particular object to alter a particular attribute of a class. So you can see this is a basic object mutability concept. Okay, that is, the objects are mutable. You need to take care of that. Okay, because all the classes and all the things that you will be accessing is by the help of an object. Okay, and an object is a mutable entity, that is, you can modify that. Okay, so that is the main reason why you can actually alter certain data members of a class. Okay, just to keep that in mind. Okay, these both are quite relatable. Okay, and a very important concept also. Okay, because later on, for reutilizing a particular code or for reutilizing a particular variable within a class, you might be needing to mutate it according to your need. Okay, we will come back to that surely in the later chapter, but for now just keep that in mind. Okay, now you have altered a particular object, or you have altered a particular property of a class. You can also delete that particular property of a class by using the del keyword. A very simple definition, as you can see here. The writable attributes may also be deleted using the del statement. Okay, that is by using the del. Test1.marks will actually delete the marks attribute from the test1 object, and test1 object might be a class or might be a simple object. Okay, because they all are basically simple objects only. You are just defining a particular class and you are just defining a particular object. Okay, now coming over to the next important concept. Okay, as you can see that multiple classes can be defined, and a multiple classes can have as many number of attributes and as many number of functions. So there might be a chance that particular object two particular objects can contain same data members with the same name, probably doing different things or probably doing the same things. Okay, so you can also override a particular function with the another class's particular function, okay, depending upon what you are calling. Okay, you can even override the data members within a class itself. Okay, now let's just take a very simple example. As you can see here, an x is defined, and x is having is a list actually, and list x is another function that is called, and it is appending the value 20 to the x list. Okay, then you have a add list function which is having an x defined within itself containing 30 and 40 value, and 50 is appended to it. Okay, then simple sequential execution take place. First of all, print x is done. So what would be printed here? Here x value is having 10, so 10 would be printed. Now the list x function is called. List x function is actually appending 20 to the globally available x, so the answer would be 1020. Okay, now finally the add list function is called. Add list function is not utilizing the global x, it is actually utilizing the x within itself, so it is overriding the concept, it is overriding the variable that is available globally. So 30, 40 would be utilized, and the final answer would be 30, 40 and 50. So that's how you actually override or actually use a particular function to override the global available variables. Okay, so that's simple. Now when your programming structure, or when you program structure, or when you define a particular classes, or you make a an application, suppose an application contains a lot of many classes and can contain as many number of attributes as you can think of, and can contain even the as many number of functions as you can think of. So they not intentionally but unintentionally, programmers may end up writing same code multiple times, or maybe using the same names to actually define the same functions within the classes. Okay, now to stop a particular class from overriding the functions of the another class or attributes of the another class, we use certain concepts that is utilized by the programmers all over the world, that is capitalizing the method's name. Okay, this is the very conventions that are the basic rules that is followed within the coding, that is capitalize the method names. Okay, prefix the data attribute names with the small unique string. Okay, it's generally underscore, you can prefix it with the any other thing, just to make it separate or to make it unique from the other available attributes. Okay, then using verbs for methods and nouns for data attributes, okay, which will define them. Okay, like suppose you define a particular class area. Okay, so that clicks a particular thought in your mind that this class will actually be calculating the area. Then you are defining function. Okay, calculate area of triangle. Okay, or area of triangle, or area of circle, or area of rectangle, or any other thing. Okay, so these names are actually clicking a thought in your mind that this particular function is actually calculating the area of a particular geometrical shape. Okay, so like this you have to actually name your functions, name your classes, so that they are unique, and anyone or any other programmer whenever reads your code is actually very much descriptive to him and is quite easy and graspable. Okay, so these are the certain concepts that are followed using the code that are followed during the coding. Now the classes may contain certain number of statements or may not contain certain number of statements. Okay, you may end up writing a class but you don't want any data members within them. Okay, but a particular definition of a class is actually needing something to be defined within itself, so you use a particular keyword pass. Okay, pass keyword actually tells the interpreter that within this function, within this class, nothing is defined, so just pass over it. Okay, so any class, this is a very important point, so make a note of it. Any class that does not contain any data member or any functions can also be built by using the pass keyword. Like this is a very simple definition: class mobile pass. Nothing is defined within the class, nothing has been called within the class, but a pass keyword is used, which is enough to define the class itself. Okay, so this is what concludes our today's topic, that is the LEGB rule and a basic definition of a class. In the later lecture, we will be taking up the constructor in the Python, and we will be discussing about the constructors. Okay, I will be taking up the small topics because this is a very detailed topic, and you must get a hold of the classes and all other concepts of the object oriented programming, because only then we can proceed with actually defining the programs and actually performing all the functions which are given in the syllabus, because then only it will make certain sense. Okay. Of course, if you will be tallying up with the syllabus, this is quite different from the syllabus itself, but these are very core concepts. Okay, if you don't know these, programming within the Python won't make any sense. You won't be getting the hold of the language. You won't be able to self create programs or the classes. Okay, so that won't make any sense. Okay, so just stick up with the lecture. We will be meeting in the next lecture, and thank you so much for watching. And of course, if you are new to my channel, please subscribe to my channel. If you have any complaints or if you want to write anything, just put that down in the comment section. And also we will be meeting in the next lecture. Thank you so much.